grad school at a more foundational level. And then going through the actual admissions process. And then at the end, we break down year by year what you can do, even as a first year, all the way to a senior student to make yourself the best candidate. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Bear with me here. All right. If I could just go ahead and get a thumbs up that everyone can see that, that would be awesome. All right, cool. Got a couple thumbs up. I love that. I do ask for some participation during this, so just warming it up there. But without further ado, let's get this rolling. Okay, guys. So, what we'll talk about today is becoming a quality candidate to a graduate school and navigating through that process. So, we will kind of start like we're talking right now with the general introduction. We will go through Vanderbilt, for about 10 minutes for me to kind of explain to you what we've got going on in campus, because I have to do my recruiting part of my job. But then the rest of this time is going to go through understanding graduate school, understanding the app process, becoming a quality candidate. And then importantly, we'll have probably about 15 to 20 minutes at the end for your questions. And if any questions don't get answered, let me know, and I'm happy to either email back and forth, set up a meeting, anything like that. Before we get rolling, I find it really important for you guys to know who's talking to you. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Tyler Kowalski. I am the Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions here at Vanderbilt University. I'm located within the office of the Dean of the Graduate School. So if you're ever on campus, come find me in Alumni Hall and we can talk over a seltzer water or something like that. If you have any need to contact me for whatever reason, please take a screenshot of this, email me, give me a call, anything like that. I'm pretty available. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Rochester, New York. I started at Vanderbilt in 2022 after working for a variety of other institutions, ranging from small private institutions, large public institutions, HBCUs, PWIs. My background is in political science, so as you can tell, I pretty much like to write papers and talk. And I love what I do because what I do is working with these key projects to connect students with opportunities, be that through summer research, be that through fellowships and foundations, or be that through graduate admissions. So what I do is make sure that you have the toolkit necessary to achieve your goals and achieve your dreams and kind of make your life whatever you want it to be. And that's kind of what we're all about here at Vanderbilt. So I wanted to introduce you guys to a little bit about our campus, kind of who we are, what we do. So we are located in Nashville, Tennessee, for those of you who are not aware. We are affectionately called Music City, USA, because you can't walk a block without finding somebody performing live music of somebody with the most talent you've ever heard belting out a beautiful cover. And that ranges from 8 in the morning all the way until 2 a.m. So it is a blast to be here if you are a music lover. It doesn't matter, country, rap, hip hop, pop, everyone comes through. So it's wonderful for concert participation. In terms of size, we're the 21st largest city in the country. So I like to put us in that kind of mid zone, not too big, but not too small. So you have everything you could possibly need. Our campus is what I would class as a pretty vibrant campus. We are smack dab in the middle of the city. However, we are on a 300-acre protected arboretum, which means as soon as you turn off of West End or Broadway or any of the connecting streets, you are on campus and there is no through traffic. It is peaceful. We like to joke that there are more squirrels than people, and it's a very wonderful place, particularly if you're trying to, you're chewing on an idea, you're walking around, you're enjoying the foliage and just getting outside and doing a little bit of breathing. Outside of just being a very pretty place to be and walk around and peaceful, there's a lot to do on our campus, from amazing food, all within walking distance, a lot of different outings hosted by a variety of groups on campus, different campus events like concerts and plays, and we have speakers coming in all the time. I know upcoming we have Sam Altman from ChatGPT who will be doing a presentation. We've also hosted things like the Clinton Summit and really large scale events of that nature. Regardless of who you are, where you're from, what your background is, how you identify, we have groups on campus that support our entire campus community, from those that support LGBTQI plus students in our community to those who work with our veteran students and anything in between. So no matter who you are, we have somewhere in Vanderbilt for you to be your truest self. And these identity groups and affiliated offices support our entire campus. So it is not just limited to members of that identity group. And then also, if you're trying to catch a great sporting event, we are a Division I school in the SEC. As you've probably seen, we're starting to get better at football. We did beat Alabama last year, and I was at that game. It was a blast, and we expect a lot more of that to be happening in the future. So come on down to Commodore Country. In terms of our enrollment size, our total enrollment for all students is just under 14,000. 2,400 of them would be traditional graduate students. So that would be your PhDs and your master's students. And then another roughly 5,000 would be professional students in our colleges of education, law, and the School of Medicine. So in terms of the graduate age population, it's roughly 7,000. So about 50-50% undergrad to graduate age. We have a 7-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So you can be guaranteed that you're going to find a pretty significant level of support. And beyond the support here, we have worldwide 44 chapters of alumni networks that enroll over 150,000 people. And that is just a really good benefit because no matter where you end up in this world, whatever industry you want to get into, you'll find a Vanderbilt alum that is going to be able to help you through that process, be your kind of mentor, and really be the boost that it should be throughout your career. And then on the right side of our screen is our most recent demographic information breakdown, particularly for our undergrad population, because those are the most readily available. But just to give you kind of a picture of what our campus community looks like. In terms of our program breakdowns, just so you know who to talk to, where to go, what you should be looking for, Vanderbilt consists of a variety of separate entities. So I represent the graduate school, and we manage 59 different programs, which we'll talk about momentarily. But we also partner with our law school, our School of Management, our College of Medicine, our College of Education, and our School of Nursing. So each one of those different entities manages their variety of programs separately, but we all coordinate under the Vanderbilt umbrella. In terms of the programming that I manage, all 59 of those programs come from the College of Arts and Science, the School of Engineering, the Divinity School, as well as a handful of PhD or master's programs in both Peabody College of Education as well as the School of Nursing. And then we also partner with our OPA, our Office of Postdoctoral Affairs, for any of our postdoc support. In terms of the programs that we offer, we have 49 PhDs, we have 4 Masters of Arts, 4 Masters of Sciences, 1 Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, and then 1 MLAS or Master of Laboratory Animal Science. So within these programs, regardless of what you want to do, it is likely we have a home for you. I would love to go over all 59, but that would take me a little bit more than an hour. So we will skip that part. But if you head to our website, you'll see that on our main graduate school page, there's a program finder, which will allow you to kind of source based on degree type, based on your area of interest, things like that, to kind of see what might intrigue you. Some important things I like to highlight is we're really proud of how good we are at a lot of different things. Importantly, looking at some of our rankings, we're the number 18 ranked institution in the country. All of these are from U.S. News World Report. We're the number 7 best value school. We're the number 11 learning community, and we're the number 38 most innovative university nationwide. And if you look into our programs, just a smattering I have mentioned here, we have education and nursing in the top 10 of the country, biosci and history in the top 25, and poli-sci within the top 20. And I like to show that because I could list, I believe, 12 to 15 programs in the top 5 to 10 of their disciplines. But I wanted to show in the wide-reaching range just how highly regarded our programs are, regardless of discipline. If you look at our total numbers, we have more than 40 programs and individual degree tracks that are within the top 50 nationwide of their discipline. And most of those are housed within the top 30 nationwide. So what that means is, regardless of what you want to study at Vanderbilt, you can be assured that you are going to do this at the highest caliber with the best possible faculty members. And we strive every single day to increase those rankings so that we can provide the best support to our students as possible. And then last but not least, what are we about? What are your takeaways from who is Vanderbilt? What do they do? 3 things that I really like to leave you with. First and foremost, it's collaboration and innovation. The way that I like to phrase this is we understand that your research, your discipline does not happen in a box. And it's unfair to you and quite frankly, unfair to academia and as a whole to put that in a box because what you might be studying in biological sciences or psychology could impact law, economics, political science, maybe sociology, or education. All of these things run together because that's how the world works. And so we invest hundreds of millions of dollars over decades into interdisciplinary research efforts. If you attend a Vanderbilt event, if you come visit campus and talk to a faculty, you're liable to hear the word interdisciplinary more than Vanderbilt because that is how important it is to us. Beyond that, we want to make sure, we're supporting you academically, but we're supporting you holistically as a student and as a human being. So we put a lot of resources and investment into our student care network that consists of our graduate and postdoc academic services team, our variety of grants and funding opportunities, as well as we work hand in hand with our graduate student council in order to give you a voice. Our graduate student council meets regularly with our academic leadership, and we've actually implemented a lot of their ideas, and they provide a really good sense of how we can change with the times in order to support our students. And we do so by trying to be a leader in the field and not getting bogged down with what we might have done previously, because we understand the world changes and our actions may need to change to support whatever world we find ourselves in. So we are consistently striving to be a leader in all senses of academia. So that is my 10-minute elevator pitch for Vanderbilt. At the end of the day, I love my job. I love where I do it. And I really implore all of you to look into our programs because I promise you, you're going to find someone who has the same level of passion that you do for your field and someone who's going to help unlock a new level of your own capabilities. But you guys didn't come here for a full talk about Vanderbilt. You guys came here for a workshop. So let's get into the actual important stuff. So how do you apply to graduate school? Well, I think before you apply to anything, be that graduate school, be that a job, an internship, a fellowship, another opportunity, heck, if you want to apply to be an influencer for your favorite sunglasses brand, you should probably understand at a basic level what you're getting into. You wouldn't sign a contract without looking at the terms and conditions at least a little bit. So why would you apply to something without understanding the base level? So I like to start with setting the foundation and getting yourself ready for graduate school. And that doesn't start with graduate school. Oddly enough, that starts with you. So my biggest piece of advice in this application process is that we need to work together to create a basis of self-understanding so that you can apply to programs that match your goals, interests, and what you want out of your academic experience. So the things you need to talk about is what is important to you as a person, as an academic, as a human being, what do you need? And we need to make sure we're asking these questions before we do anything else so that we can structure everything. Because you don't want to get into a program only to find the 5 things you need to be healthy, happy, and fulfilled aren't there. So the way that I phrase this is I ask students to really think about 2 things. We need to determine our deal breakers and our needle movers. What I mean by that is a deal breaker is a must have. It is something you cannot live without from your basic person level. So for me, I'm originally from New York, but quite frankly, I don't like the snow. I don't like being cold, which is why I moved to the South. So a deal breaker will always be climate. I know I can't wake up to 12 inches of snow ever again in my life. So that will really determine where I will feel the best and most happy and most fulfilled. A needle mover is something that might help sway a decision, but it won't make that decision for you. So what I mean by this is my favorite grocery store is Sprouts. There's a few in Nashville. It's a wonderful, little chain. It's great for, a variety of different dietary things. But while that might be a positive, I really hope you don't decide your graduate school experience based on the closest grocery store. So these things kind of start to add up. And if you understand what these may look like to you, a deal breaker being climate, a deal breaker maybe being it's your distance from your hometown. Needle mover could be a grocery store. It could be, are there enough golf courses by, or is there a gym locally or something like that? So if we compile all of these, we will get a sense of what we really need in order to be our best selves and find the program that is going to support that. So once we've kind of figured out what we just need to subsist, to survive, to be healthy and happy, we need to figure out at a grander level, what is our why? So ask yourself, why are you going to graduate school? Why are you applying to this program? Is it because you want to? Is it because this program has a faculty that matches your research? You met them at a conference, all of this good stuff. Or is it because you were told to apply to grad school? Is it because insert school has a really powerful brand name and that's all you know about that? We want to make sure our why is an internal driving factor. So if your why starts with an external force, mom or dad or grandma or grandpa told you to go to grad school, that is not going to be strong enough to get you through this opportunity because grad school is difficult and we need to make sure we're set up for that. So make sure you're using this to learn about your why, learn about you as a human so that you can set yourself up for success in terms of the application process. Now, before I go on, just a little participation. Does anyone have, when I say the term deal breaker, does anyone have an example of what might be a deal breaker for you when you're looking into these opportunities? And you can feel free to raise your hand. You can just unmute.
Someone in the chat mentioned pricing, cost of living. That
Michaela?
Personally for me, I'm looking for like an online graduate school. So if they don't offer like online for my specific program, that wouldn't work for me.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, these are all amazing things to be looking into. Valeska, please. I hope I got your name right.
Um, can you hear me? I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Okay. So yeah, so you did get my name right. For me personally, I would really like for like the staff that I'm working with to have, and I think somebody also mentioned it in the chat, to have similar research experience from what I'm trying to get. So that way I could like be a part of a lot of different research teams and like really get that experience. So, and preferably something like in person and preferably something in Florida because I'm from Florida. So, yeah.
awesome. Thank you. All right, Daisy, you are our last one. I see a lot of great ones in the chat too.
Hi. So I think my deal breakers, my goals is I do need it to be online because I'm going to be working full time and I need it to align with that. I also need a program that I'm in elementary ed, so I need a program that will advance my career, and also I would like to be a professor, so I want something preferably at UCF that I would be able to like get into being a professor and make connections. So
Awesome. And the thing that I really like about all of these answers, and I really thank you guys, for having these because it's really important to have these conversations. But you'll see that they're variable. So somebody might go to pricing, someone might go to location, someone might go to, I believe we had someone who wanted a diverse area to do fun things, because that's something we have to consider. So don't get bogged down on what you think your deal breakers should be. You will know what they are, if that makes sense. So thank you guys for sharing all of that. I won't make you do needle movers and whys for time, but definitely consider these things as you're going about your day upcoming. Other things to consider. So once we have this baseline understanding of ourselves, ask your questions. Daisy had a really great point of knowing what she wants to do, kind of impact and advancement they want to have. So ask yourself, how does a specific degree help this? Ask yourself, what does my network look like? Who would write my letters? Think of asking experts for their opinion. And when I say experts, I want you to expand your idea of an expert. An expert isn't a grad student or it isn't just a faculty member. Talk about someone who's gone through every aspect of this opportunity, someone who went to grad school and maybe took a leave of absence or didn't get into grad school or left grad school or got their PhD and went to industry or academia. Experts are anybody who's had any sort of experience with this. And you can learn from missteps and successes and see where you actually situate in this. And then finally, guys, the last question you need to ask after all of this is how much do you love research? Because we'll talk about the skill set you'll need to develop for graduate school, but research is going to be incredibly important. So as we kind of move on, asking ourselves, okay, we know a little bit about ourselves now. We know what we need to feel fulfilled, but do we understand what grad school is? What makes a master's different from a PhD? It's very different. Key three things that I like to talk about here. First and foremost, timeline. Masters are traditionally going to be 1 to 3 year programs, depending on your industry and your location. PhDs are historically 5 year programs, if not 6 or 7, depending on some, biological sciences or some STEM fields may expand beyond that. In terms of funding, a master's degree is largely funded by yourself. So through your tuition, potentially through loans or fellowships or grants, you will be responsible for that funding by and large outside of any scholarship you would receive. A PhD traditionally is a fully funded program. So with your admission to Vanderbilt, you will be paid a stipend. You will never pay tuition. We pay all of your associated fees. And that funding package is nearly $500,000 per student over 5 years. And that's not everything you have access to. So I know pricing was a big concept for a lot of people. And if that's going to be a big driver, consider looking into programs that are PhD level and fully funded. So you take that pricing completely out of the equation. And then we are going to be looking at transitioning into grad school. We're going from what we are now, which is a scholar. And if you're talking about grad school, you're probably a scholar at a very high level. But as a scholar, you're dealing with material and proving you know it. You might be, taking it apart and discussing it and things like that. But at the basis, you are being taught something and you are engaging with that. What we're going to transition to in graduate school is much more of an academic, where it's not every single day you go to classes. For your last 3 years of a PhD, you probably won't go to classes. But at the end of your PhD experience, you are going to solve a problem or contribute to literature in a way that no one has ever done before. You will put your completely unique stamp on a discipline, and that is an amazing achievement, but it does ask you to do different things than someone who is going to classes and getting A's on tests. It is going to ask you to be a self-advocate. It's going to ask you to learn about all these new skill sets that would be very appropriate for your graduate level work. Importantly, graduate school is incredibly variable, not just within school to school, but even within programs. How our chemistry program is run is entirely different from how our anthropology program is run. And that's entirely different from how our computer science program is run, because they need to be very discipline specific in order to be as effective as they possibly can with graduate schools. So as you're looking into this application process, really be looking into programs specifically. Don't just look at institution A, look at institution A and their associated program you're interested in, and don't think that that program speaks for every single thing. All right. And then the last things I want to leave you with in terms of setting this foundation is kind of talking about the skill sets that it would need from you. So the number one thing, and then we're going to have some room for participation in a second, but the number one thing that grad school is going to ask for you to do is be really strong in terms of time management, because being this academic means you're going to have to manage going into the lab on your own. You're going to have to push your own research further and make those progress and strides as best as you possibly can. Does anyone want to guess what number 2 is? Chat is fine too if you guys are still warming up. What skill set would be second most important? I'm just going to keep going. Number 2, guys, writing ability. That's a really great idea. That is very, very important. Discipline, communication, work ethic, all very important. The number 2 most important thing for graduate school is also time management, because you need to stay on top of things as best as possible. Okay, so we've gone through time management twice. Can anyone guess the third one? It was not mentioned just yet. Anything else? Michaela's got the idea. It's also time management. The top 3 things you need to manage are your time, because you're going to have to navigate through 5 years of program where it's largely self-driven. Okay, and last time I'm going to ask, what is the 4th most important thing for graduate school? What is a skill set you'll need to develop? Anybody in the chat? It was really close, Alejandra. I love that, but you have to remember you don't know everything. All right, because as we're navigating through this graduate experience, you're going to be brand new to this. And if you're thinking about graduate school now, I promise you that you're probably used to being a pretty high achieving and successful student. And those skill sets of being a self-advocate and asking for help becomes very difficult to do if you're not used to it. It is never a bad thing to reach out, and it's never a bad thing to be wrong. And in academia, we're wrong more than we're right, but that is okay. But getting into the actual list. So yes, time management, being a self-starter and a self-advocate, like we've talked about, and making sure you utilize your resources like we've utilize your resources as best as you possibly can. And part of that, remembering that you don't know everything, is limiting ego at the door. So if you need help, reach out. And I promise you will be good to go. And above all else, y'all, self-care. Remember that you can do it. Graduate school is incredibly difficult. It is supposed to be because you are embarking on something where you're going to become an expert and potentially change the entire world. So because of that, there will be a level of difficulty. But if you get into programs, they project that you're going to be successful. They've already bet on you. So remember that you can do this, okay? And if you need help, reach out. I can't say that enough. All right. So we've already gotten through the idea of setting this foundation. Getting into the application process becomes a little bit easier once you've kind of answered these questions for yourself. When we're looking at setting up our application, we want to start with general information gathering. So things like deadline dates, required materials, school information such as location, enrollment size, is it funded, is it not, keeping these at a very, very high level. But as we remember, the variability is so broad that this needs to be program by program. So don't, if you create a spreadsheet with all of these items on it, don't just create a line for Vanderbilt University. It should be Vanderbilt's computer science and Vanderbilt's electrical engineering, and then maybe MIT and Harvard and Yale and all of these different schools, program by program. You can expect to see on all applications for any graduate school, any level of programming. First and foremost will be a statement of purpose. This is your opportunity to sell yourself to a program, to explain why you love research and why you love your field of study. The biggest piece of advice I can give you in navigating an effective statement of purpose is that everything you mention and bring up needs to somehow relate back to why you want to do this for your career and why you love this discipline. If you want to talk about your experience with a summer job where you were on the leadership team and it was awesome, it was you helped change the whole culture of this summer camp and everything like that, that's amazing. But you need to be asking yourself every single time, how do you translate this to me being a successful researcher? So we bring that up, and then we can tie that into, and this shows my leadership capabilities. This shows my organizational capacity. This impacted my research strategies in this way. Do not leave any space where you think someone is going to infer something from what you mentioned. If you are putting it out there and just hoping that they see that, wow, they're going to figure out that I'm a hard worker and this is going to help me in my chemistry research, make sure you make the connection for them. All right. And ask yourself in anything that you mention, is this relating back to research or my field? Or at the bare minimum, is this leading into something that will make that impact? If not, it probably does not need to be included in your statement of purpose because this needs to be very tailored to getting you into graduate school. Okay. Beyond that, commonly you'll be required 2 to 4 letters of recommendation. I know this usually seems like a pretty easy thing to accomplish. Just ask someone for a letter, right? But I want you to get in the habit of asking people for a strong and positive letter of recommendation. The reason I make those key distinctions is because a lot of applicants title chase. They might be worried about not having an important enough person as a recommender. So rather than asking that professor they've had 3 or 4 classes with, who might be a non-tenured faculty or an early career faculty, they run to a chair or a dean who they might have seen 2 times. And if they don't have a relationship with you, you can't be certain that they're going to speak your praises to the level that you want. I have seen letters of recommendation that come through and say, I don't understand why this student asked me to write this letter. I only taught them when they were a first year and they got a C in my class. So we want to make sure that you have this relationship established. You're comfortable that they're going to write a strong and positive letter, and then you know generally what they're likely to say. If you don't know what they're going to say, or you don't feel as though they have the strongest relationship with you, meet with them. I can't tell you how many times I've written letters of recommendation for students from my research program where we've had a discussion on, okay, what is it that you want me to say and highlight, and what's the story you want to relay so that I can be as supportive as possible in this endeavor. And last but not least, we want to make sure that we're asking field specific recommenders for their assistance. The reason I say field specific is going back to this summer camp idea. You might have a boss who is amazing and loves you to death and can speak volumes about how amazing you are. However, a faculty member will not really be able to gain your research credibility from that type of letter. So, if we want to have extra recommenders, I kind of call them character witnesses to show how amazing you are. That is awesome. But your main recommenders should be field specific, either academics at your institution, if you've done research outside, your research advisors, even if you've done internships, private sector letters of recommendation are just as appropriate, provided they're in your field. So just make sure that we're kind of keeping that in mind. And if you're looking at this right now thinking, oh, I don't know who I would have write my letters, that is a pretty big red flag to say, let's start working on this network. We'll talk on some strategies how to do that in a moment. But guys, go to office hours, talk to faculty you admire and tell them that. Say, hey, you've really expanded my mind in political science, and I really want to pursue a PhD. Could you be my mentor? Could we talk about grad school? And really start that, because faculty love the impact that they make on their students. And you'd have a lot more success with the network if you do that initial outreach. Beyond that, you'll likely be required to provide your transcripts. Most commonly, they will be unofficial transcripts for your application, but you'll need to figure out how to send official transcripts for your enrollment. And then some programs will require other documentation, such as a CV, resumes, a writing sample. If you've had any publication history or anything like that, you might have to be required to put that in as well. But that is generally what you can be looking for to set up a very basic application. Everything else will be kind of program specific, such as GREs, writing samples, things like that. When we're applying to grad school, okay, we've got everything set up. Now, how do we navigate through this process after we click submit? Well, we need to remember what is important. So we need to go back to those deal breakers, those needle movers, those questions we've asked ourselves, so we can get a sense of what we actually need to make this decision. We need to make sure we're doing our research. And then we also want to connect with programs as much as we possibly can. Graduate school is much more about a fit in a program rather than strictly your resume. So the more that you can do to show them your fit, to show them your excitement, you're going to set yourself up for further success. So if you're trying to meet with faculty, you're trying to meet with program personnel, I always recommend to start with the administrators. Not because faculty don't care, but faculty are some of the busiest humans I've ever seen in my life, between research advising, publications, doing their own research, teaching classes, surprisingly being an actual human being outside of their office. All of these things take a lot of time. And so if you're looking for someone to play that middle person role, talk to your directors of graduate study, directors of grad recruitment, graduate program coordinators, managers, specialists. Any of those type of roles will be your best bet. When we're doing this outreach, I like to advise students to be persistent but not annoying. What I mean by that is, if you send out an email, at Monday at noon and it's Monday at 4 p.m. and you haven't heard back, it's probably not time for a follow-up. But if you reach out on Monday, it's the following Monday, things get overlooked, people make mistakes. So just, a quick, hey, just wanted to follow up on this. Thank you so much. I promise you that'll be the most effective way, because as admissions personnel, we receive hundreds, if not thousands of emails daily, depending on the time of year. So it is not uncommon for something to, get caught up, maybe get lost, caught in a filter or spam or something like that. So be an advocate for yourself, but also recognize and give people the appropriate grace outside of that. And as much as you possibly can, try to have a meeting. Let's try to avoid strictly email exchanges. So it could be a phone call, a Zoom, a Teams meeting. If you're local, maybe an on-campus meeting. Anything you can do where they can connect your name with your application and your fit for the program will set you up for further success and a greater likelihood of being accepted into programs. And now, this is the application process, but what do we do to win this process, for lack of a better term? How do we become the most quality candidate that we possibly can do? Well, we have to do this by understanding what they look for. The graduate admissions process is incredibly different from undergrad. Undergrad is much more, let's look at your transcripts. You have a 4.0. This is amazing. Here you go. In graduate school, it's much more of a projection of your future success, and fit is the key factor in this. I like to compare this, oddly enough, to the NFL draft. If you have the first overall pick in the NFL draft, you're not going to pick someone who is only a good college player and does not project well to the professional game. You are picking that person because you see their fit for your system and your team as creating further success. So when candidates are being reviewed at the graduate level, our faculty are looking at them and saying, all right, this is our research area. This is where we have funding. This is where, this is the vibe of my lab. This is what I look for in candidates. All of these things are taken into account beyond just your numerical data, beyond just your publication history. So I say this to not get down on yourself if, you maybe looked over, even though you have an amazing resume, because somewhere we'll have the perfect fit for you, and that's what they are looking for. What reviewers are going to do when looking at your application is try and see your story. Yes, they're going to look at your qualifications. Your GPA has to be at a certain level for some programs. You probably have to take certain prerequisites for some programs, but they're going to try and look at you holistically. So looking into your statement of purpose, really thoroughly reading and vetting your letters of recommendation to see what your capacity is as a researcher and as a future team member for their program. Because as much of an amazing opportunity it is, particularly at the PhD level, it's nearly $500,000 of investment the university is going to be making in you. And so they want to make sure that we are projecting the best success and best fit as possible. And in terms of just some key factors that you can do to improve your quality as a candidate is improving your research experience in any capacity, be that on-campus research with faculty, be that internships and programs, be that shadowing a researcher. Anything that you can show that you've engaged with research at any level will be beneficial, because the hardest thing to project is someone's desire to continue with research. It is 5 years of researching on a very specific project, most likely, depending on your industry. And so they want to make sure that you have the skill set and drive to do that. So if you've done research before, it gives them a nice little green flag saying, hey, we might have something here. Not to say that it's a be all end all, but there's usually some level of research you can get done, even if it is just with your host faculty at your primary institution. Beyond that, your letters of recommendation really tell the biggest story, because it's academics speaking to other academics. So make sure that you do what we've talked about earlier and setting those up effectively. And then, as much as you can, reach out to programs and attend events. I know you probably get 10,000 emails as soon as you apply somewhere, reminding you about this event and this event and that event and this virtual webinar and stuff like that. But I promise it makes a difference if you go. If you go to these events, your profile will be marked as having attended and registered. And while it's, again, not going to be the be all end all, part of projecting fit is showing excitement and commitment. So if they see that you and a candidate are equally weighted in all regards, but you've shown up to 5 or 6 events, you had a meeting with the faculty, you've shown your excitement in the community, that will work to your benefit. Everything you can do to show engagement and effort will really help you out. And then finally, guys, before we get to our last slide, and I think we have almost 20 minutes for questions. What do we do now? So we've talked about a lot of stuff. And by all means, you ask me questions about everything, but what do you do now? So for early career students, freshman, sophomore, do what you're doing right here. Attend events, ask questions to yourself, to other people, to experts, really anything, to start figuring out what you might want to do. You do not need to make this decision today. I can tell you, as someone who decided he wanted to go to grad school second semester of junior year, and didn't start applying until very late in the cycle, my senior year, this isn't something you have to figure out right now, but you can help yourself by asking these questions. So when the time comes to make that decision, you have a foundation of understanding. Outside of that, find as many experts you can talk to. Start your network if you don't have one. Meet with faculty and realize that regardless of grad school or not, you're going to need people to vouch for you in some capacity in some way. So whatever you can do to build that out now will be beneficial. And if you haven't already, start exploring the idea of doing a summer research placement or other internship opportunities around research so that you can build this foundation and see if research is what you want to do, because it is important to test it out. Not only is research going to be beneficial for the faculty review, but if you do a 9-week REU program, you're going to spend a whole summer doing research, and you'll learn pretty quickly if you want to do that for 5 years doing a program. And it's okay if it's not for you. You know, there's a variety of different pathways. For my more senior career students, so my juniors, guys, continue summer research, get into internships, start to seek out funding as much as you can to attend conferences. If you can, put in to present at conferences, all of this stuff like that, and really start to dive deep into your research phase for your schools, programs, placements, things like that. Because now is the time where you won't be under the gun per se, where you will have some ability to take your time and you will know when it comes to senior year when to apply, who to apply to, what is going to be your best interest. Maybe you've already talked to faculty. Maybe you met somebody at a conference or talked to someone like me at a recruiting event. And then also work to expand that network. I'm hoping you started it at some point earlier, and then now it's building it out. So it's not just people you know, but it's mentors, it is peers, it is everything possible. And then the seniors, it is pretty quick and easy. It's application prep, and now it's time to pull on that network. So now it's time to get those letters of recommendation. Now it's time to talk to someone who might have gone to the university you want to go to set up a meeting, anything like that. All right, so that is pretty much everything I have on navigating the application process. I do want to provide you guys a QR here. If you scan this, whatever email that you use to fill this form out, will get a fee waiver for the next 2 years to Vanderbilt. So what that means is for fall 2026 applications and for fall 2027 applications. So everyone up until the class of 2026, I guess. Wow, it makes me feel old. Won't have to apply, and that saves you $95. So definitely get that scanned. I'll leave that up for a minute, and then we will get into some questions. I see that we've got some in the chat. So we'll get that ball rolling. All right, so I've got one in the chat, which I will jump into right away while you guys are filling that out. But the question, a pretty common one, is what would you advise for someone who does not have a research experience and already has a master's degree? How do they build research experience after having their degree in order to better prepare for a PhD? So with this, it's actually pretty common for programs to bring in people, in some level of like a research assistant or a post-baccalaureate program or things like that. So that would be my main piece of advice, is to kind of seek out, once we have the master's degree, it really opens up a lot of opportunity for us in research as employment. Or some level of that. So for instance, when I managed the program of chemistry, there was a RA there who spent 2 years working as a research assistant in a lab, and using that experience was able to build upon their undergraduate experience and became a quality candidate. They weren't accepted in their first go through at Vanderbilt, but through this research experience, they were able to find support and funding in an entirely different lab than they did their RA in. So it wasn't even like a, hey, spend 2 years and show me you're worth it and I'll bring you into my lab. They were brought into a complete different program. So I would say that and postbacks are your best bet. I'm not certain if there's any like summer research experiences for not current undergraduates. So those would be my best piece of advice. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here so I can look out at y'all. And then, all right. So thank you for that question. We do have another in the chat. What about individuals who were/are in research labs, but they want to do their program in a different field? Will the fact that they were in an unrelated lab affect them? Not particularly. Obviously, transferable experience is always, paramount. So if you can say I've done, 3 chem placements, I want to join a chem lab, that, would probably be best. But research in of itself is very applicable to all types of research. For instance, I hosted a student as part of my summer research program. They came in as a political science student. They did all of their REUs up until that point as political science. And then last minute, 11th hour, they're like, I think I want to get my PhD in psychology. But all that it really asks of you is to kind of tell that story a little bit more. So what you're going to want to do is use that research experience and then immediately explain why that is applicable to the field you want to study in and how you got there. Same deal as we talked about earlier. We don't want to leave the inferences to be made by the reviewer of your application. So, if you've done research experience, you've built research experience, regardless of field, that's going to be beneficial everywhere. And it's actually, in some cases, it looks very favorably upon you because you liked the field you're applying to so much, you changed everything. So you can really spin it in a positive manner as well. All right. Any other kind of questions, comments, concerns, anything like that?
Tyler, thank you so much for an amazing presentation. And students, this is your time to ask away. We do still have a couple more questions. So feel free to use this time to either unmute your mic or drop your questions in the chat.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So I am graduating with my bachelor's this semester, like right at the very end, and I'm in my internship right now. I have not had many opportunities to talk to staff at UCF or really make as many connections other than with just my professors. And I'm also planning, I'm elementary ed, so I need to talk with the district that I'm working in because there are programs that they will pay more for. So I want to kind of align my research with what my career specifically would want. So am I to be able to start in the fall with either my master's or possibly a PhD program? Am I like too far behind? Could I still get my applications in?
So I know for Vanderbilt, most of our deadlines pass usually no later than early January. So for at least our programs in particular, it's at least for fall, probably a little bit late. I can't speak nationally because I mean, the variability of dates is so broad. We've got some programs that do rolling admissions and accept up until the absolute last minute. We've also got some programs we've seen that they have, fall deadlines in early November. So that would really be program dependent. But as much as you can to try and reach out to anybody to kind of get a sense of what is available. And also because, we are in the point in time where we're seeing a lot of application decisions go out, it might also be a good idea to kind of prioritize the spring term as well to give yourself a little bit more flexibility and time to potentially look for new programs or build more relationships, either through employment, through internships, through shadowing, things like that, so that you can, increase your candidacy.
Okay, that makes sense. So I wanted to kind of do a seamless transition so that I can stay enrolled in the college that I'm at. So I'm at UCF. I'm sorry to take your time. I just wanted to kind of ask questions because I've been so focused on my internship and that's been taking so much time. So I haven't really done as much research as I would like to, but I do know that I want to continue and I'd like to do it sooner rather than later. So I'm wondering, should I try to contact professors and try to just ask questions with my professors that I'm already with and see about that? Or
Yeah,
is there?
I would say, meeting with a faculty member is never a bad idea. I would probably recommend reaching out, like we talked about, to an administrator, because specifically in this sense, we want to make sure if we're talking to faculty and trying to learn about a process that they're involved in the process. So, you might have a relationship with one faculty, but they might have nothing to do with admissions, or they may, but we don't know. So definitely try and meet with someone. I would probably talk to an admin to kind of get a sense of who could tell you the best information, or maybe a list of people that you can kind of pick from that hopefully you have a relationship with. And then also for more of a seamless transition, at this point in time, you're probably looking mostly at the master's level. PhD admissions traditionally happen a little bit earlier just because of the funding implications. But yeah, so have those conversations, figure things out. Who knows? There's a million different ways things can go. where, maybe you talk to the right person, you really hit it off, and there's some special exception or fellowship or something out there that, no one else is aware of. So have those conversations.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And then as far as like master's and PhD programs, I was kind of trying to decide what would work best. Is that something that I should ask someone who specializes in it and to see what's exactly the program I should do?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
really, particularly based on kind of what you explained about your research interests and the specifics of your field. It's going to be really important to have those conversations, because number one, we want to figure out, what are you going to actually be doing? What does the coursework look like? Does that match with your time? Pricing, availability, all of these things, you probably want to talk to an expert on.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the whole presentation. That was great.
Happy to help. That's why I'm here. And guys, I will say, new rule moving forward: no apologizing for asking a question. I'm here for you. I will be here. I got all day. If you need something, I got you. All right. I only got two hands raised. I've got a couple quick ones I want to get to in the chat. And then we'll go Hunter and Valeska right after that. So in the chat right now, we've got Abigail asks, when you said PhD is fully funded, do you mean via scholarships? Kind of, sort of. So the way that PhDs work traditionally for most fully funded PhDs is that the scholarship you receive is called tuition remission. So what happens when you're admitted into Vanderbilt, you're accepting college. So let's say you get accepted into the computer science program as a PhD student. Your department will then pay your however many tens of thousands of dollars of a tuition on your behalf. And then they will also pay you a stipend. This year, I believe it is 38,000 or 36,000. I have to double check. And then through their budget, they would also pay for health insurance, all of your associated fees, student activity fees, things like that. So it's a type of scholarship, but it'll vary depending on program. So it could be a fellowship, a graduate assistantship, a research assistantship. But at the end of the day, someone else is paying, which is the important thing. So thank you for that question. And then we were asked, in a worst case scenario, if I were to be rejected from a school's graduate program, would it look bad to reapply? Absolutely not. Like we talked about, graduate applications and graduate admissions is so fit and projection based that you could be, let's say you applied for neuroscience in a specific field of nanoengineering. You could be the number one nanoengineering candidate nationally, and that faculty may love you and want you. They just might not have the funding for that. But the next year, maybe 3 students graduate and you get right in. So it's really, really very unique. And so I would never tell someone not to continue to apply. I can't tell you how many students got in on their third or fourth application, or some students applied for, they applied for a bunch of programs, got denied, got some work experience, applied for different programs and got in. So always keep applying. All right, we'll go to Hunter first, please.
Hi, thanks. I wanted to ask if there were any advantages to transferring into graduate school as a veteran.
Well, I would say in terms of like the benefit would just be, very oddly enough, very similar to collegiate athletes, is just the skill set and opportunity that you have as a veteran. Particularly looking at, your self-advocacy, your self-discipline, your teamwork mentality, things like that. So those would be the big benefits that I would see. But same deal, we want to make sure that we're not leaving that to the inference of a reviewer. So, if we want to make sure they see all those benefits, really explain how they show up in your work ethic, in your attitude, in your actual production, and then they'll really kind of make those dots connect, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. All right. We got 2 more questions. So we'll get Valeska, then we got one in the chat. So please let it rip. Oh, I think you're on mute. Unless that was it.
No, I have a question. Sorry. So my question is, okay, me personally, I've gone through a lot of changes. Oh my gosh, sorry, they're drinking water. Hold on. Okay, so I started out with getting my associates in psychology, and then I switched to social work, and then I switched to education, and I came full circle right back to psychology. So I'm in psychology right now at UCF, and I'm a junior technically, but because I've done so many changes, I haven't really had like a chance to like bond with any professors. Also, all of my school has been online. So it's really difficult to like bond with professors online because usually they'll have like 300 students or something. So it's like really difficult. Um, like at this point as a junior, would any research like okay, because I doubt that I'll be able to do an internship because I work full time. So I really don't know if I'll be able to do an internship. Hopefully I can, but I doubt that I will because they don't normally pay well and I support myself. So if I did like if I became like a research assistant, like is that something that you can do online?
So that would be very field specific. So for certain things, thinking of like your computer sciences, your data institutes and things like that, you might be able to. I will say for most things, it will be an in-person experience. So I would just kind of advise you on that there. But also, I do want to kind of challenge you to open up this idea of what an internship is, because I don't want us to limit ourselves to an internship being I have to stop working and I'm going to go get not paid somewhere for 12 weeks of however long. An internship could be, hey, someone in, your field that you admire locally, can I swing by 3 hours on a Thursday every few weeks and shadow you and just learn about this and just enough to build a relationship? Because what we really want out of those internships is that letter of recommendation from someone in our field. So kind of whatever you can do to, for lack of a better term, microdose an internship, will be very beneficial to you if that helps. And then also, if support is a big concern, really look heavily, especially as you're a junior right now, really look heavily into PhD programs. Being that they're fully supported, it can take that stress off the plate, which can really kind of open you up a little bit.
I do. I really do want to do PhD. I'm kind of struggling because since I've gone through so many changes,
Mhm.
like my coursework looks really like spotty. Like it doesn't look consistent, and I feel like that's important to a PhD program. Like to apply, it should be like
I
kind of
would say
consistent.
so. I would say the consistency needs to be in your dedication. So not in the sense of like you have to have straight A's or you have to have, every single class has to be chem or psych or anything like that. But they want to see your dedication, your interest into academics. And so as someone, you can, again, like we've talked about previously, you can spin the fact that you've changed your major 3 or 4 times to end back up where you started, because you were so excited about all of these different things that you dove headfirst into them. So I would really try and look at all of that as a positive, because now you have a wealth of experience that you can bring into a new field and a new program that someone who's only done one thing their entire career might not, if that tracks.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Also, sorry, really quick follow-up. Um, if you like getting an internship, does it have to be like with your school? Like if because right now I go to UCF, but I go online and I live like in Texas. So it's like a whole thing. I have University of Texas El Paso like right here,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. I've been hesitant to like reach out and ask questions about whether I can do internships there or work with a professor there because I know that they do have a psych program. So I was just wondering like what your thoughts are on that.
Oh yeah, no, honestly, internship is all that matters. I would say, quite frankly, external research and external internship has a higher kind of weight to it, in comparison to your host institution, your home school, and it just kind of shows like same deal as the idea of, oh, we've touched on all these different disciplines and majors. We've had experience in this place. We've had experience here. I mean, even if you were looking into industry, into some capacity of what you want to study, that could also be a good option as well.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, students, for asking great questions, and thank you, Tyler, for your time. It is the end of the session, so I do want to go ahead and conclude our session. And right before we do so, I'm going to go ahead and drop in a post-event survey. And this post-event survey, if you all can just go ahead and click on the link and fill out the survey for today's session, we would greatly appreciate it. And Tyler, thank you so much once again for being so fantastic, for sharing your insights with our students today. I love how engaging this session has been. And I did see that you shared your email in the chat. So students, please feel free to email Tyler if you have any additional questions. As you can see, Tyler is green, and definitely take the time to reach out if you have any additional questions. And then if at this time, I'm going to also go ahead and promote AAP really quickly. So if you guys have any questions for AAP, email aap@ucf.edu. And we also have our link tree with all of our resources, workshops, and events. But that is going to be the end of our session. So thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. It was a pleasure. I'm at UCF a lot, so if you see a bald head, just come say hi.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate
Bye,
it.
y'all.